Hello folks, welcome to the channel and welcome to the man cave. So today's video is about Aoocci's C6PRO. Now I've already done a review on it, so click on the link up here and I'll put a link in the description down below. Go and check it out. A very nice bit of kit. But today's video is all about customizing the boot up screen of the Aoocci C6PROs so you can put something like this on it. The only thing it's not going to do is show you how to get rid of this, and I find it rather annoying, doorbell chime like that on startup. Apologies for interrupting the video so soon, but there is actually a very easy way to get rid of that annoying doorbell chime on startup. The C6PRO has an inbuilt loudspeaker at the back here, and all you have to do is turn the loudspeaker volume down to 0. How do we do that then? Well, you go to the home screen, tap the loudspeaker icon, and that brings up a volume bar. And all the green means that that's full volume, and then just slide it all the way down to the left. All white means absolutely no volume, and that is how we get rid of that annoying startup doorbell chime on the C6PRO. Anyway, back to the video. But today's video is all about how you can put your own boot up screen, custom boot up screen on the display unit. What I will say is I've already looked at YouTuber RichyVida's video on how to do it, and he's got the older C6PRO which has got the Aoocci name on the top. This is the newer version and it's got Aoocci's name written across the bottom, and his video did not work for me, and I believe he got his instructions from Aoocci. Aoocci have themselves given me their workflow how to get a customizable boot up screen onto my unit, and I followed those instructions and it didn't work basically. And further correspondence with Aoocci in China, and they tell me that they use a Windows based machine, so that I suspect is why I was not able to do it. So today's video is about putting the boot up screen, your customizable boot up screen, onto the Aoocci using an Apple computer. Windows people, go elsewhere or try it, and if it all goes a bit peak tong, then don't come running to me and blaming me with lots of horrible comments in the comment section down below. And indeed that goes for the Apple users. If you try it and it goes terribly wrong, it shouldn't do, because I've done it about 50 times and it works fine. But in the video I will show you some of the slight problems you can possibly come up against. I take no responsibility for anything going wrong. You do it at your own peril. So with that in mind, let's roll the intro. Welcome back, and as I said, this workflow only works if you've got an Apple computer. So the first problem you may come up against is to do with the formatting of the SD cards. Now, when Aoocci sent me their C6PRO, they included a free 64GB card. They call it a TF card. I don't know if there's any difference between a TF card and an SD card, because to me they are exactly the same. But anyway, I formatted the Aoocci card in my Apple computer, went through the workflow, and it did not upload the new logo. However, I sort of scratched my head a little bit and thought, okay, let's see if I format the card, which I've already formatted in my computer. If I format that card within the display, within the display, go into settings, format SD card, does that make a difference? And yes, it does. It worked flawlessly following the workflow that I will show you. So problem number one, formatting the card. If you follow the workflow and it doesn't work, then just pop your SD card into the display settings and then press format SD card. Now, I've also done it with a SanDisk 32GB card, and I've put it in my card reader and then formatted it to MS-DOS FAT32 or MS-DOS FAT, and I followed the workflow and it works absolutely no problem at all. But again, if you've got any problems following that workflow and it doesn't load your new logo onto the display, then just reformat it in the display itself. But you can do that right from the outset if you want to. But yeah, that would be one of the first problems you may come up against. Next thing you have to do is come up with an image to put onto the display. Several ways you can do that. Jump on the old internet, go to a website and then download an image having paid them some cash, or a mate can send you an image free of charge. And the other way you can do it, as I've done it, is I've just gone onto my editing software, Final Cut Pro 10, and then I've just knocked up an image, and then that's what I've used to put on the screen. However, there are several things you need to be aware of, and they are to do with the size of the file, and that's to do with the height and the length of the image, so that it fits nicely onto the proportions of the screen. So Aoocci say it should be 1440 by 720, so that the image fits nicely on the screen, so it doesn't become squashed when you put it onto the screen. And it should be no more than, or no larger than 50 Ks. Now, I didn't know what K was, but it's the same as KBs in computer file language. So 50K, 50 KBs, no bigger than. I have actually gone up to 90 Ks/KBs with no problems whatsoever. So don't stick to 50K. That's not a hard limit. You can go above or below that if you so wish. And Aoocci did tell me that you have to call the file name Lotel boot logo. Now, that's incorrect for the Apple. It has to be Lotel boot logo .jpg. It has to be that. Otherwise, when you put the card in there and connect the power to it, it doesn't read the file. It just won't read it. So you have to have it in that format. I use Final Cut Pro 10, so I've come up with my own design. So I did a custom resolution of 1440 by 720 so that it fitted onto the display. So I'm not going to tell you how to do that. If you use Final Cut Pro, you should know. But then I've just put a solid background, and then I've just brought some images in and then just played around and put some text on it. So as you can see here, I've got my channel logo. Then I've taken a photo of the bike on my iPhone and then brought that into the Final Cut Pro, put some wording on it. Then I've got this nice logo as well. Again, I put some text on there. Then there's that one for the Triumph. I had a KTM, so there's a KTM. That's the original Aoocci boot logo. And then finally another KTM. So there's so many things you can make on here. The world is your oyster. So that's how I got my images to put on the display. At the moment then, the boot up screen is the BMW logo on a white background. So what I'm going to do is put the black background on there with a bit of text and the BMW logo. So how do I do that? So that's the image that I want. So I am just going to save that as a JPEG image onto my desktop. So there we go. So next, and then I'm just going to put BMW logo. There we go. So I'm going to save that. So that's now on my desktop. What we've got to do now is make sure that the image is going to fit the display. So let's open the BMW logo, go to the top toolbar, hit tools, adjust size. And then what we need to do is make sure it's the right size for the display. So we're going to type in 1440 and by 720. And then you can see it's got 381 KBs or Ks as Aoocci calls it. That's going to be too large. And what we need to do is just go to resolution where it says 72 and just maybe give that 20 as a ballpark figure. And then that should bring it down to 60. I think that will fit on there. So let's have a look then. So resolution of 20 gives us 60 KBs or Ks. Let's hit OK. And then it resizes on the screen. Let's just close that down. And then the next thing we have to do is put that image onto the SD card. So whatever image you end up using, it's quite important that it is a size of 1440 by 720. That's why in Final Cut Pro 10, when I made my images, like this one here, it was a file size of 1440 by 720. So when I come to resize it, like we have just done, then the image doesn't get distorted, i.e. stretched or squashed. It still looks the same because it has been made in the same size to fit on the screen. So I hope that makes sense. So what we're going to do now is put the image onto the SD card. So I'm going to show you how simple it is. So we're going to do it in one take. So what we've got is the image that we want to put onto the display. Currently on here we have the white background with the BMW logo. So that's the logo we want to put on there, or the image we want to put on there. So that's my SD card in the SD card reader. And what you have to do is make sure that the SD card is empty, so delete everything that's on the SD card. And I'm using the SanDisk SD card, and what you can do is just format it if you want to, but it's already formatted, so we can, just to remind yourselves, format the card. So then just click Untitled. So you want to make sure you're not going to erase everything on your hard drive. That would be embarrassing. So just going down to Untitled, which is the name of the SD card, and then just go to Erase, and then just format it as to MS-DOS FAT32. Erase that. It's already been done. It's not going to take very long. And then once it's done, click Done, and then get rid of that. And then what we need to do is then drop the new logo onto the SD card. So just drag and drop, open that up, and you'll see what it's called. It's called BMW logo.jpg. So what we need to do is call it something else, something that the Aoocci can read and know that that is the new file to use as the picture or the logo when it boots up. So in order for the Aoocci to know that that's what we need to do, you have to type in that. So Lotel, I think that's underscore, is it? bootlogo.jpg. Very important you do that, and also that there is nothing else on the SD card. So eject that. There we go, and then take the SD card out. So that's the SD card, and the only thing on there is the new logo we want to put on here. So what we're going to do is unplug it, and I'm using the supplied USB power cable that comes with the Aoocci, and then very simply just pop the card into the bottom of the Aoocci. And then if you haven't got long enough fingernails, then what you can do is just use the metal cover that sits under here. So there we go. So the card's in there with the new logo on there. Remember, the old logo in there was the white background with the BMW logo. So here we go, and there's some timing involved in this, folks. So that's the old logo that's in there, and when we go from this screen to the home screen, then we'll unplug the power after about a second. So there we go, 1 second, unplug it, and then count to 12. 1, 2, 11, 12, plug it back in again, and we should, yes, we've got the new logo on there. So it's as simple as that. It's very important you give it that 12 seconds to do what it needs to do, to shut it down and whatever, otherwise it just won't work. So 12 seconds I found is the best time. So yeah, 12 seconds it is, and it all works fine. Apologies for the sound there. So we've now got the new logo on the display when it starts up. So what I'm going to do is just show you what can happen with the resolution when we resize the image. So what we're going to do then is go and click on the logo again, and if you think about the resolution when you go into Tools, Adjust Size, and then if you think about the resolution as zooming in and zooming out, so at the moment then I think it was 62 kbs or Ks, and don't worry if when you go into this page here you see that it's now 1440.18, 120.09. Don't worry about that, that won't have any effect. But what we can do, we've got the resolution of 20, which is a good ballpark figure. But if you upload the image to the display and you think, oh, it's actually too small because you get some grey around the outside of it, or it doesn't fill the display, although the proportions are correct, you might just want to zoom in a bit more. Or if it's too big and you haven't got enough of your display or logo on there, then you might want to zoom out. So just think of the resolution as zooming in and zooming out. So I'll give you an example. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom out, so when we redo the logo, the same logo, it will appear smaller on the screen. So let's just do that now, just to give you a good understanding of what's going on. So I'm just going to call that 10, a resolution of 10, which gives us 25 kbs or Ks. So I'm going to go to OK and going to click that. And then what we're going to do is just unplug the screen using the metal cover, because I haven't got long enough nails. Just use that to eject the card. Be careful, it might just fly out. Pop that into the card reader. Now when we read this card now, because it's been in the Aoocci machine, the unit, the Aoocci will have downloaded some extra folders onto it. Don't worry about that. You don't actually have to delete it. what we have to do is delete the boot up JPEG. You can leave those other files on there if you want to keep whatever footage on there that you've had or photographs, but you'll see when we read the card now. So putting the SD card back in there, wait for it to come on the screen. It's untitled. So if we open that up now, you're just going to see the Aoocci is loaded in the boot up process, some other files. So you can delete those if you want to, or leave them on there. It won't make any difference actually, but what you need to do is remove the original file that you wanted to have as your boot up picture. So let's just delete that then. So we've deleted that. And now what we're going to do is get the file that we've just adjusted. So just remember, it's the same picture, but we've just zoomed out on it with the resolution. So let's drop that on there. And then what we're going to do is just rename it. So let's get rid of that bit and then pop that bit on there. So that's now done. And as you can see, it's now 27 kbs. So let's just eject it. There we go. And get that out of the SD card. I'm just showing you folks why we're doing these things. Hopefully it'll be of some benefit to yourself. Put the card in there, push it in. And so what I'm expecting to see is that BMW black background screen smaller, but in the same proportion, so it doesn't look squished at all, but it's not going to fill the screen. Hopefully that will make sense to you. So going to plug it in, and then we'll get the old screen on there. So that's the old screen, and let it go onto the home screen, then unplug it. Blah. There's the old screen, unplug it. Give it 12 seconds, 12 bananas, 2, 3, 11, 12. Plug it back in again. And now we should have a smaller screen on there because there we go. So we've now got, because we've zoomed out with the resolution, it's a lot smaller. Does that make sense? So that's what you need to do if you find that the image just looks a little bit small, is use the resolution to either zoom in or zoom out. And sometimes you might have your image having a bit of a grey border around it, but then all you've got to do is just zoom in a little bit using the resize tool bit on your computer by changing the numbers in the resolution box. So let's now go to the other end of the spectrum and just show you what happens when we zoom in the picture. So when we increase the resolution, which increases the kbs or Ks. So I've already taken the SD card out, put it into the SD card reader, and then gone onto this page and then just adjusted the resolution from what it was before when it was a small image to now 25 on the resolution, and that's increased it up to 84 kbs or 84 Ks. Now I reckon 90 kbs/Ks is about the maximum you could go. If you go too large, then it simply won't read the image and it will just load the image from the previous image that was loaded, if that kind of makes sense. So there is a maximum limit. I don't know what it is, but it seems to work up to about 90 kbs or thereabouts, but you'll just have to play around with it. So that's at 84 kbs. So let's OK that. And it's already on there, so I'm just going to turn the screen on. So I have actually already loaded it on there. So you're just going to see that it is bigger than the other images. So there we go. So it is a lot bigger. It fills the screen out, but because we've done it in 1440 and 1720 on the size of the image, then it looks great on the screen. It hasn't been squished or pulled apart. So it all looks good. It looks in proportion is the right word I was trying to find. So that just gives you an example of zooming in and zooming out of the image by changing the resolution. And I would say go no more than 90 kbs. Well, that's it, folks. Finally, we've come to the end of the video of how, using your Apple computer, you get to upload an image onto the startup screen or the boot screen of the very nice Aoocci C6PRO. So hopefully it's been of some benefit to yourselves. I've tried to show all the stages involved so you know exactly what is going on in relation to how we get the image from here onto the screen, and certainly in relation to the zooming in and zooming out about the resolution. Just bear in mind, if you go over 90 or thereabouts kbs, you may have a problem with it actually loading the image onto the display itself. It might just not do it, so you might just have to bring it down a little bit. Other than that, it should be fine. I've used an SD card of 128 gigabytes, and that's uploaded the image fine also as well. So, but I would suggest that you use a separate SD card for loading your images onto the display itself. What I will say is, once you put a new image onto the screen, then you won't be able to have the Aoocci green background display on there unless you email Aoocci and then get them to send you the file, or you take a photo of it or whatever, so you've got the Aoocci startup boot screen if you want to put that on at a later date. That's it, guys. Ride safe, and comments down below. I think that's everything covered, and yeah, it's quite a nice little feature. Cheerio for now. Bye.